Okay, I'm live again. Let me send the message here off to this gentleman. Here's the link. Here's the link to join me. All right. Sent. So let me just send this off now. Okay, tweet that, get some notifications out here, get some people to join. Like I say, nice to see you folks that were already joined. Hopefully you're going to join me in this one as well. Here, close that up. Okay, perfect. So like I say, just I'm just taking a minute or two here. Wait till we got this gentleman. What's his name again? What's the name here? Nate Hot Takes. Nate's Hot Takes. I like the name. Good username. Anyways, Nate Hot Takes is just one of the people who replied. Actually, I should find right now. Go back to my notifications if I can find them. Oh, I think he's in there now. Let me just find him here real quick there, folks. Hey, how you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
Excellent, excellent. So you wanted to have a conversation or kind of an informal debate with me today regarding CERB, I believe. And actually, you were actually the only one that actually accepted that challenge. So I got to give you props, mad props right there, that at least you were willing to come on and have this kind of conversation or informal debate with me. Because most people, they like to talk past each other. They never actually want to engage in dialogue or conversation to get to the nuance of what each other's perspective is. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And I think that's what's the big problem with our society today is, like, yeah. I probably would, like, I followed you on Twitter. You followed me on Twitter before this even happened.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
so before this even happened, we both followed each other. I tend to be libertarian leaning myself. So my only support of CERB is not that I like the program. It's just that it's a kind of a necessary evil almost. It's a necessary, because of what the government has done during this coronavirus pandemic. They had to do something, and this is what they did. So we'll see.
I get what you're saying, but an old saying that's been around forever. That just reminded me of the old saying where, like, basically the government breaks your legs and hands you a crutch. Like, I get it. I get it. If someone breaks your leg, it's probably going to be much easier to get around if they hand you the crutch. But you got to think about the fact that they were the ones that actually broke your leg in the first place. So are they doing it? Are they really doing it because they're benevolent? Like, do you have, like, that's the thing, and not you in particular, but a lot of these Canadians seem to have this really blind faith. I would even say faith. And like, as if Justin Trudeau personally cares about the economic outcomes or the prosperity of Canadians. And he's not doing it for any selfish reason. He's not doing it to grow government. It's not because he's an ideologue that is a fan of China's basic dictatorship and self-identifies as a feminist. No. None of that stuff has anything to do with it. And the fact that his family's very closely aligned with the Cuban, the Castros and stuff, so to me, that's the thing. It's like, anyone, if you're going to question motives, at least look for what they are doing, what their position, like I say, if this was someone that worked in a charitable organization and was using his own personal wealth to hand it out to people, I'd say, now that is someone that's acting on behalf of, or acting in a benevolent manner. But some guy to sit on a perch or claim to have some authority over your paycheck and say, well, I'll take from this member of society and give to this member of society. That's a terrible thing. Now, historically, it used to be, at the very least, this is the part that I find actually most disturbing about the rampant wealth and income redistribution, is it's not even under the pretense of the guise anymore of robbing from the rich, because it was much easier to get people to align with the socialism or forced wealth and income redistribution if they perceive that the money's all coming from the rich, right? But I think most people alive today, even people on the left side of the spectrum, realize that the rich, they got many, many ways to protect their wealth. And it's actually governments, even in Canada, the Conservative government, which is supposed to be fiscally responsible, was the government that bailed out all the big banks in this country to the tune of $114 billion.
Yes.
Anyways, did you want to reply? Because I know I put a lot out there right now. So did you want to just kind of go on what I said so far? And I'll just wait until you responded.
So I think the biggest thing right now is, yeah, you're right. Trudeau's not doing it out of a benevolent motive. He's doing it out of a political motive, a power, like, because he knows that if he does this program, like that people will vote for him and he could get reelected and he can keep power and he can implement whatever he wants when he has the power. Now, the issue with that is that a lot of the money is coming out of thin air. The Bank of Canada is printing billions and billions of dollars because the GDP contracted so much because all the provinces shut down and we lost a lot of tourism. Is a big thing for Canada. Tourism, hospitality industry, we lost a lot of that. The oil and gas sector has been struggling and it got hit hard because, again, people weren't using oil and gas during the first, when there's a shutdown, there's almost no traffic. People weren't going places. The airlines were shut. So we've lost like major GDP. They've inflated, like, valued the currency by printing money. But what was their option? Like, for myself, I qualified for EI. My employer, I work as a cook in the restaurant industry. So when March 15th happened, March 16th in BC, and the government's like, oh, we're shutting down all restaurants for dining, all pubs. I was working as a cook at a pub. Well, my pub completely shut down because it's part of a private member's business club in downtown Vancouver. And they rely on events and function, and they were taking all the safety precautions. So they shut down March 16th, 17th for 2 months. And they didn't reopen until like late May. And very slowly, they started reopening parts of the club and parts of and then they opened the pub, but only from Monday to Friday, 5 days a week, short hour. So instead of being open to midnight, we were open to like 10. And I was only hired there in November of 2019. I worked there previously a long time ago, but I don't have seniority, so I wasn't recalled back. And you've got CERB for people that were laid off, but they also had the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy for employers to pay 75% of employees' wages. But my employer did what was best for each employee, so they tried to keep as many employees on if you were better off under getting CEWS, but if you're better off with CERB, then so I'm just kind of waiting. My employer would like to bring me back, but the business levels aren't there. So what am I supposed to do?
No, I get it, and actually, that's why I'm so glad that you came on to have this conversation with me today, because this is literally all that's required for someone like myself. Is for someone like, if you're receiving it, first of all, I'm not going to blame you, because once again, I do understand the argument, and people
and again, I paid into EI, so I would have qualified for normal EI anyway. The CERB program, they were getting, the EI system was overwhelmed by all the applications, and the government decided it's just easier to approve everyone, give them all 2,000, instead of having to approve you.
But see, that's the thing, and that's the incentive structure that government wealth and income redistribution. See, that's the incentive structure that it actually incurs in this kind of behavior. Which is, once again, I'm not blaming you, because just like myself, I mean, I've been plundered I started work. My first job, I had to actually get my mother and my father and stepfather at the time to sign on the dotted line to say that I could, because I started work. I quit school when I was 15. I went to work in a lumberyard when I was 15, but you had to be 16 to technically to go to work in that kind of job. So I had to get a note from my parents to do so. So I've been paying into taxes, and if you look at how much government has taken and confiscated from me over the course of my lifetime, I'm way in the red here, right? So in terms of how many services, once again, I understand that, and why even Canadians like yourself are taking advantage of the fact that, hey, these friggers put me out of job. I deserve this. They've been plundering my income for taxation, for all these things. I want to grab a little bit of that. So I totally get that. But see, that's the thing. That's you being honest. And this is where, when you're talking with someone that's being honest and they have good intentions and they just don't know what's going on, then that's, like I say, where you and we can have these discussions. Okay, but don't you think we should have a structure, an economy, and more personal responsibility to get to the point, whether you're talking to the owner of the business or even as individuals? Shouldn't we get towards a place like, just like I say, the guy I was talking to a little earlier, Mario Greco, it wasn't that long ago, my grandparents that grew up under the Great Depression, everyone knew you had to have some savings. Everyone understood that there's going to be bad times. There's going to be potential situations where, your economic situation may change, and you should have something to back you up in the event of that. But because people today, the incentive structure by government and by people, like I say, constantly thinking because the government takes from them that they want to get some of that back. So this constant redistribution, it has removed accountability from basically all the parts of the equation. Everybody is like trying to get their hand into the pie. And the part sorry, go ahead. Dig in.
Well, the government's also encouraging people to take on debt. I mean, they've low interest rates. They encourage you to take student loans, mortgages, lines of credit, like this, that, the other thing, because that stimulates the economy. It's a kind of fake economy, really, if you think about it, because so many people are just deficit financing their own personal lives. And
exactly.
I mean, I took out student loans to go back to school after like time working as a cook. I wanted to go back to school, get a degree in political science, but it's just, I took out some, like I paid some of it with savings, and then I had to take out loans to and then trying to find a job afterwards in political science, or just like trying to figure out what to do with that. Well, I mean, I think the trade, a lot of times people denigrate the trades, but there's actually a lot of money in the trades, like
for sure,
blue collar work in construction and different resource sectors, and a lot of people don't really want to consider that as a career. But
no, go ahead.
I think like for myself, I worked as a cook for so long, then I went back to school, got my degree, and then trying to find a job, trying to find anything, I've gone back to cooking, and now the government take that like away, and I'm just trying to like, I mean, one of the problems is, there are restaurants now as things reopen in BC. I'm not sure where you are right now, but as things reopen in British Columbia.
New Brunswick. I'm on the exact opposite side of the country.
Oh yeah. So as things have reopened in BC, like there are restaurants hiring, but it's like, okay, if I'm getting paid $15 an hour, but I'm not only getting 25 hours a week if it's a part, because they only need so much labor, they only need so many hours covered. Is that really worth it? And what the Conservative Party's kind of pushed Liberals on is like, which, I mean, I'm sure you wouldn't agree with this either, but it's that people shouldn't be worse off going to work. So if you go to work, you make some money, but you also can still collect, like you wouldn't be worse off by going to work and not being on CERB. You get some money. Now the problem, there's talk about a universal basic income that this is leading to. See, there's two different things though, because this isn't a universal basic income, because the universal basic income, the government would literally give money to everybody, whether you're a billionaire, a millionaire, or have nothing. Like,
but 9 million, that's a pretty good trial run. 9 million Canadians, that's a pretty good trial run, right? And you see 9
million Canadians.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, was it that many that were that got laid off or took advantage of
well, that's the thing. Until we know how many were actually, that's the thing. Until we know how many were even fraud related, because that's the thing we've seen subsequent reports where there's definitely been massive and rampant fraud. And of course, it's going to take place. Trudeau basically said, "Hey, just give everyone the check. We'll worry about cleaning up the mess later." Well, duh. What do you think? People are all going to be like, of course, there's going to you basically entice people, just like when he virtue signaling, "Oh yeah, we'll take any immigrant that doesn't like to live in the U.S. and thinks that Trump's oppressing them." I mean, when you virtue signal that kind of stuff, you're getting people that are going to make bad decisions based on that kind of advice. He's basically enticing people to do it, right?
Yeah, and one of the things at the beginning was like anybody that was being laid off was originally applying for EI through Service Canada. And then they put CERB through the Canada Revenue Agency, but all the so you can technically, at the beginning, I know people that applied through Service Canada for EI, and then they applied through the CRA for CERB, but you weren't supposed to double apply. So some people did it intentionally, and some people didn't do it intentionally, just thinking it was a different because the government rolled it out so quickly, and there's so much, it's hard to communicate the message that you can only apply for one or the other but I think that it's going to be a challenge. challenge to get people, like, what I really think is we've got to start reopening things more than we have. Like, but that's up to the provinces.
Well, and I just because I just wanted, because we're kind of on the topic of the, and you even admitted the money printing thing. Yeah. And here's the big issue, and this is something that I think is so profoundly important, especially for people that are younger, because I realize that the younger people are failed tremendously through the education system. They have no grasp or genuine understanding of what money is, what it properly represents, or even what inflation is. The inflation happens as a direct consequence of government intervening in the economy and devaluing the currency with these kind of stimulus programs, right? So when I started work, back when I told you in 1985, when I started work, when I was 15 years old, minimum wage at that time was $4.50 an hour.
Yeah.
If you take today, and that's 35 years ago, because I'll be 50 here in November. So that's 35. So 3.5 decades it's gone by. I've seen the minimum wage triple basically to almost $15 an hour, right? So you're looking at almost $50 an hour now. But the cost and the price of everything is outstripped to the point where during the whole course of those 3.5 decades, even though I kept getting wage increases, and I've never really worked for minimum wage, so it was always in excess of minimum wage, but the minimum wage hasn't even kept up as much as even me in the private sector getting wages above it. But even people in the private sector or that's getting like on free floating wages, it's dependent on whatever your employer wants to pay. But if you're on the lower end of the spectrum, it's even worse. So you're actually seeing, if you've been someone that worked most of your life in those minimum wage jobs, you've actually seen your wages devalued. You're actually, that $15 an hour you're getting now, especially and particularly if you live in one of the big urban centers, the proportion of your income that goes towards just putting the roof over your head. Because like I say, when I was making my $4.50 an hour, it was quite low. But there was enough money from that puny paycheck that I got, because rent was only about $300 for like a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment if you wanted. Gas was 39 cents a liter at the time. On the big long weekends, it'd go up to 42 cents. Like I say, the cost of everything. So even people that are benefiting from, whether it's the CERB or any other government debts and deficits that are incurring to supposedly prop up or help people in need, it's those people in need, like the wealthy, the rich. If the cost of bread only goes up by, even if it's 100% and doubles in price, let's say, and it's now $5 for a loaf, for a rich person, fuck, they don't give a shit. But for someone on the people that are really on the lower end of like that doubling of the price of your loaf of bread, that's a tremendous detriment. That's less and less. And if you think about the part that in Canada in particular, what the young people got to realize is, you can go to the dollar store and get all kinds of consumable goods that are cheap and are imported from China on basically slave labor, and you're saving some coin there, no doubt about it. But everything that you require to sustain yourself, the roof over your head, the food in your belly, the gas in your tank and all that stuff, the things that you actually require are so much more expensive. And it's because of this inflation. Now, like I say, the big thing too, and there's a generational divide that people don't like to talk about either, because it's basically like a Ponzi scheme when you're talking the way the current system is set up. So baby boomers that got in very early on, before all these socialist systems started taking place and when the debts were starting to get ramped up tremendously, like they got in early level. Like people in like my parents' generation, they got to buy houses back in the 50s and 60s. Literally it was typically 3 to 3.5 years of your employment would be what it would require to buy a house. So if you made $20,000 a year, 3.5 years of that, your house was about $70,000. That was pretty cheap. So now you got people that would have to spend a decade just to save up, younger people, just to save up to make the down payment, not paying off the house, just to save up, if you're like place like Toronto or the GTA or out in Vancouver where you are, or any of the
we're Vancouver.
So this is the thing, which is why, and I have 2 sons, right? So I got a son that's 29 and another one that's 25. So my concern is, it's not that and both of my sons, of course, and the part that no one wants to talk about is, a bleeding heart to the people, and even for yourself. But my sons, who neither of them, because they got me as their dad, and they've got a little bit more of a personal responsibility thing because of my influence. They're like, but it's even harder for me to convince them not to play with the system and game it, because they're like, well, yeah, but everyone else is gaming and doing okay. Well, meanwhile, I'm basically shooting myself in the foot and putting myself at an economic disadvantage to people who are literally, and that's like I said, once again, that's a terrible incentive, and it's destroying the ambitions, the creativity, the entrepreneurial zeal, that animal spirit that you need that actually creates wealth in the economy. Because printing money, like I was saying to Mario earlier, if people believe that just print money is a way to create wealth or prosperity, then why $2,000 a month? Let's just give every Canadian $1 million, right?
Well, if printing money was a way to wealth or prosperity, Venezuela would be the richest country in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Or Zimbabwe. They got $1 trillion bills in Zimbabwe after their hyperinflation. So, but of course, a loaf of bread costs
the printing of exactly. So that just in my lifetime, I've seen the price of like certain products, like consumer products, like chips or any sort of like thing in the grocery, where you look at it, it's like it used to be you could buy a bag of Doritos for like $2 or $2.50, and now it's like $5 at the corner store. It's crazy. It's double.
And in addition to that, not only are they catching you with the price increases in terms of inflation, but I don't know if you do much in terms of shopping, like in terms of like grocery goods. But cheese, I see. Oh, now cheese is down to like 400 gram bars, right? They're charging the same price now. So that's another thing they've done for catching you. So go ahead.
So what they did with like cheese, also bacon. It used to be 500 gram pack. Yeah. Now they're 370 for the same price. No, because everything, like instead of raising the cost, they reduce the size because and then they keep the cost the same. Then they trick you. You're getting less though. You're still getting less.
Exactly.
No, Maxime Bernier though has talked about the inflation and then the issues with inflation and devaluing of currencies and not having any standards like that. One of the things I think is, if we're going to get out of this, though, we've got to open up the tourism sector, because so many people, and hospitality sector, because so many people in Canada rely on those jobs, and also events in like the entertainment sector, concerts, movies, different like movie production, movie theaters. You've got sports. Like you're not going to have like the Canucks. They're playing in bubbles right now, but you're not going to have the Canucks next season with fans. They might be in Rogers Arena, but they're not going to have fans. And they're going to, if they travel, it's going to be like they're basically putting a virus that has a less than 0.5% chance, if you get it, of you dying. They're using that to shut everything down. It's not a pandemic level virus. If it was a pandemic level virus, we would be at 5-10% deaths but we know we're not, because we know that they only catch about maybe 15% of all people that get the coronavirus, COVID-19, actually get tested positive. A lot of people don't even get it, and they never get tested. So but they've got the antibody tests later have shown like up to 8 times more people have got it.
Oh yeah. Well, that's
so
like
my shut down.
My question to people would be like, what do you think? And I mean, I just read another article this morning. I think it was at the National Post, talking about the 1918 flu and how it never went away. It never went away. So that's the thing. What are people thinking? Do you honestly believe? Which is why I firmly believe that the Swedish model, it's going to take time. They're getting the heat right now, but I firmly believe that given enough time stretched out where we can look back with the macro perspective and look at the full picture, I think it's going to be proven that Sweden was way the head out in front of everyone else, because they realized you're not going to prevent your society. It's going to unfold eventually. You can't lock everyone up for all of eternity. What you should do, which is what I was even saying earlier on, because I had a grandmother, I still have one that's in there now, but one of my grandmothers did pass away from these long-term care facilities. But that was one of the first things on my mind is, okay, no, we don't need to lock down society, but we definitely need to protect those people. But think about it. The one job that should have been the most dominant responsibility, and actually is in the hands of government, because that is one segment of the economy they got full control over, is healthcare and long-term care. That is the one area that they failed miserably. A full 85% of all Canadians that died as a result of COVID is people in these long-term care facilities. So that, to me, that just goes to show you like just how inept. So when people place their faith and their trust in these politicians or people in government that are going to protect them or take care of them from cradle to grave, the big thing I want young people to know right now is these bonds that the governments issue, that's a promise on your prosperity, your future labor. They're selling your future labor to other people. Right now, they're not getting much of return on it, but most of the big investors don't even want to buy them anymore because they realize that people in the West have become so lazy and inept and so inefficient that they're not going to get a return. So what the government's doing now, and I think CERB is just one aspect, but like I say, there's a multi-pronged thing that something like CERB helps. But what it also does is it economically, well, because Canadians are going to be expected to, pay it back if there was fraud, or they gain some benefits, so they'll have to pay at some point in time in a tax increase. Whatever it is that's a government send a message to these institutional investors that don't worry, we'll have enough cash cows and wage slaves in Canada to pay back, right? We'll get your dividends up a little higher or your rate of return a little higher than zero. So it's like, and I worry about, like I say, the young people in particular, because they're not given this kind of knowledge, and because they're so far removed from the economic prudence of past generations that it seems normal to them now. It seems normal for most people in Canada today, even people of my son's age, to believe that you just spend your whole life in debt and basically just barely scrape by. No, that is not a proper course of action. And for the reasons such as like that, when an outbreak happens or something else happens in the economy or in the social realm, you need to be able to protect yourself, to have a cushion. But nobody does, because everyone thinks that government is just going to be right there to catch them every time they fall. And, if you've ever raised kids, I don't know if you're old enough to have any kids, but I do, is the last thing you want to do. You don't want to be overly just go do whatever you want and don't give them any guidance or structure. But you definitely don't want to be the parent that bails them out every time they fuck up, because, man, you'll end up with some kids that are not only bad people in terms of economics, but they're going to be they're detrimental to their own economic health for most of their lives, because they haven't learned these valuable lessons that we all really should learn.
Yeah, it's a good point. I don't have kids. I'm 34 myself, but I'm the oldest of 5. But currently, I'm living at home because it's so I was going to school to study a master's degree, and then I didn't complete that, and then I got my bachelor's. But I've been working as a cook, which doesn't pay that much. It pays okay. Like, the job I currently had was good, and I've done a lot of volunteer political stuff, but getting your foot in the door in politics is well, politics, you just find out how corrupt it is, really.
If I can give you any advice, I stay out of the politics, actually. And I think it's quite admirable. And I really appreciate the fact that you are someone that takes on a job like cooking and chef, because that's a job that is very thankless in a lot of times. People see the the waitress and the waiters, right? But they don't see the person back there slaving over the hot stove or whatever all day long. So listen, I got mad respect, especially the fact that you're in the private sector as well. And it's actually quite striking. I got to add this too: the fact that you're identified as conservative, kind of libertarian leaning, and you kind of support the PPC. That actually speaks volumes. As all the people that doubled down and all pounced on me. I was just one guy that put that post on my tweet out, but I got attacked by a tremendous amount. Out of everyone though that jumped on, you were the only one that not just agreed to have the conversation and to come on and talk with me. But as you can see, obviously you're a person that thinks more about personal response. You're a reasonable person, which is why it's kind of a little bit disturbing, because every time I think I'm going to entice someone that's one of these outrageous or unreasonable lefties to come onto my show and prove just out of touch with reality they are, I end up finding people like you are actually reasonable. It's like, darn it. I mean, as much as I love this conversation, but I really do. I want to talk to some of these people.
You can't get well, first of all, the lefties won't debate you, first of all, because they're scared. They're scared. They can't debate. They don't have points. They'll just have insults. So they can't,
pretty much.
They don't have logical art. It's basically just you're an idiot. You're this, that, the other thing, or you're just an evil libertarian who wants everyone to starve and die in the streets, and you hate people. I mean, I got that supporting the PPC. It's you're a racist, bigot, not this, that, the other thing. So it's just, if you're a libertarian or a PPC supporter or even a conservative, it's just insane. They paint you, the left, and the left has gone so far. They've gone so far off a cliff. You've got Marxism running rampant in our society, in the school education system, especially the universities. Where it's cancel any speaker that disagrees with, cancel any speaker that has a contrary opinion. That's not what we were supposed to be about. But you
No.
think about what happened at UBC with the UBC Free Speech Club. They're bringing in some speaker, and people freaked out because they don't like what the speakers have to say. They tried to cancel them, so they're and the UBC caved to the pressure of it. And so there's like a lawsuit going on with that. I know my friend is the president of the UBC Free Speech Club, and you've got like when we had Maxime Bernier out in Vancouver for rallies during the political campaign, we had a big event at the Hellenic Center in Vancouver, and Antifa was out there, but the venue was getting death threats and like all sorts of threats. Like the people that run the venue, we were getting like, and then we had like to have a lot of police outside, and Antifa was there and screaming and shouting, and it's craziness.
It is. I'm trying to find my original tweet actually, because I just wanted to mention to the people that are in the stream here today, just to let them know I didn't say anything that I thought was too overly controversial, although I did include the hashtag CERB because I seen it was trending. But I just wanted when I do that stuff, I like to gauge the reaction and stuff. Plus, like I say, to entice people to engage in conversation. Because even myself, even when I've heard information that I disagreed with because maybe I had that cognitive dissonance before, I still realized that I had to hear it, even though it bothered me at the time. I had to hear that information because it was the only way. If I don't hear different perspectives, then I can constantly trick my mind into thinking that I must know everything. I must be right about everything because everyone around me is reinforcing the same thing, right? You literally have to have your ideas challenged, your principles challenged, your premises challenged. That's the only thing that expands on. That's the only thing that's made me more of a well-rounded person is someone, and it was difficult. Nobody likes it's an uncomfortable feeling when you're like, oh shit, yeah, I was totally wrong. Like it sucks. I admit it. It totally sucks to be wrong. But if I'm honest, if I'm wrong, and I guess the thing that helped me the most is I come from a competitive background. My dad was into racing. I was into racing. I started racing when I was just a teenager. And what it is the rhetoric has to go out the window. If someone knows of a way to build an engine better, I mean, you can try to say, oh, you're an idiot, I know better than you, but they're going to be able to prove their point because down the end of the track, their car is going to end up being faster, right? So it's like you can argue the bullshit, the rhetoric all you want, but the reality is going to prove and it's going to unfold because, they had the evidence to back up their claims, right? So that to me, that's why to me is like, actually what I want to do for people that some of the people that even these lefties that perceive me as this evil libertarian. No, I want you folks to be wiser. I want you to be thinking about these issues much more critically. I want you to be testing some of these premises you are, and having them challenged so that you're actually thinking about things more critically. Because if you're going to be the future and the young people are going to be the future, well, I want the future to be something remotely resembling what the Western nations are supposed to be all about is individual freedom, picking yourself up by the bootstraps, personal responsibility, accountability, all those beautiful things that made the West the best historically. I want to maintain that and actually build and expand upon that, which is why for people that identify as progressives, hey, I'm all with you. Of course, I'm for progress. And no, I'm not to the point where I have to keep everything the way it's always been. There's some things are going to have to tweak and change at some point in time in the future. But like I say, you have to at least be willing to have these discussions and have your premises challenged. You showed today that you're definitely going to do that, which once again pleases you. So if let's say there was 100 or 200 people that responded to my tweet, that pleases you in a very, very tiny minority, which is I'm thankful for you, but it's also a bit of a a downer for me to think, damn, there's only that small percentage in Canada that's willing to at least have their
have an honest discussion about this because like it's unsustainable what the government's doing. $300 billion debt, like a deficit for the fiscal year, adding to our already massive debt in Canada. And then you look at like what's going on. How are we going to come out of this? Because I don't see like what's the end game? What's the like how does this end? Because I don't know, like this new normal that they're talking about. I don't want this new normal. I want to go back to the old way of how we lived. Like I want to have social contacts. I want to have parties and events and concerts and live sports. I want to have like gatherings of friends, wedding, like whatever these, and do we have to get Bill Gates vaccine or do we have to get any like China vaccine? Like, really, are they going to rush and force a Chinese vaccine on us? Like China's lied every step of the way.
Yep. Yeah. And the crazy part, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but they even it was on CTV the other day, actually.
Yeah.
Wuhan, like all these students sitting there in their classrooms, nobody's wearing masks. There was another thing that was on one of the media, and they were having a pool party in China. So even these countries around the world are finding ways to open up, and I guess maybe that's why the Chinese are genuinely surpassing the West, is because they're seemingly doing things in now I'm not agreeing with a lot of the things they're doing, but there's something in the West that's, like I say, regressing all the progress and all the prosperity. It seems like all the wealth and all the brain power and all I don't know, it's all being drained from our countries. And like I say, I think it's because the incentive structures have been destroyed to the point where it's really hard to entice people to step out to do the right thing when the majority of their peers, or a substantial portion of their peers, are like I say, benefiting or making out like like bandits at the expense by using big government largesse or redistribution. And that's a part that, like I say, it's detrimental. I know how hard it is to try to keep like my own sons on the straight and narrow and being personally responsible when, like I say, a lot of their peers are like, well, okay, Dad, but how long am I supposed to continually like sit at the back of the bus here? I'm the one that's got the ideas, the ambition. I'm more creative. Why am I the one that has to suffer? It's a tough one. It's a tough thing to do.
Yeah, no, it is.
Let me just say one more thing there before you respond. In addition to that, because there was another thing I included in there in my replies to people is, and no one in the media wants to talk about this stuff, is the debt that's going to be offloaded to successive generations. Because as much as I realize that right now the reason why our taxes aren't going up to match like all this massive spending is because the government, rather than raising taxes currently, is they're putting that on that. The don't pay a dime for a lifetime, or let's kick the can down the road thing, right? And then just print the money now. Now, the inflation is definitely going to be a fairly immediate consequence or effect. It'll take a little while to trickle out in the economy, but you'll see that'll take place. But the other thing is, it's not just the current deficits. It's look back through the history of Canada. It's constantly intergenerational theft. It's constantly each generation, grows debts. Now they will go up and down, but they're always growing. Even if they grow by lesser amounts, if you watch the trajectory, it's always on the upwards trajectory. So debts, each generation is offloading more and more debts onto successive generations. And at this current time, like I say, because the boomers have had such a long run of prosperity, and the great benefit that the boomers achieved and attained, and not because they had anything special other than the fact that they had the demographic bulge. So baby boomers were such a huge portion of the population. Us Gen Xers, we only represent like a very small sliver. I think when they did the demographics one time, I was watching the chart, the boomers were in the high 30%, and millennials are quite a big, like challenging the boomers in terms of actual size, but that's because you got a couple of generations of people who have created that. Gen Xers, I had created a couple millennials myself. They didn't all come from boomers, right? But Gen Xers, which is why even when you hear the media, no one ever talks about us. But we've had a lot of debts, and we've had basically, it's like our parents have had this economic, the big boot on our economic necks for most of our lives, and keeping us somewhat suppressed because they have the voting power. So when you have the large numbers, and in Canada, first past the post, you don't even have to have like the 50 plus 1%. You just have to be enough of a demographic to constantly have government work in favor. So no, go ahead. You want to reply? Go ahead.
You have a plurality of the demo, and also you show up to vote when the younger people don't show. Like maybe the millennials aren't showing up to vote. So you even outside your own, and so the benefits are going. The governments are tailoring every benefit to the people that vote.
Yeah, and the crazy part is the boomers are literally considered, and I'm like, all the numbers and the statistics, the facts are all out there, literally the richest demographic cohort in modern history, in recorded history. They've done really well because the greatest generation and everything they did, World War I, World War II, and fortunately in North America, Canada and the US, there was no destruction of our resources or our infrastructure, so we had all that extra capital, right, to build, plus all the massive debt that's been incurred. But that's the thing, when you've had that much power for 3-4 decades, there has to be, just like a parent, there has to be a point in time where you pass the torch off, right? Like, you can't keep your kids under your thumb forever, or your grandkids. And that's the part that I'm seeing is when the housing crash, like the 2008 financial crisis, people like in Canada, they make fun of the Americans for that. Actually, the younger people in America benefited tremendously from that housing crash because that allowed them to get their foot in the door in terms of, that house that used to be $500,000 that after the crash was only 200,000. Boom! Now a millennial can buy that house, right, at a price more in their price range. Whereas in Canada, the boomers, and then of course you got they're using like foreigners to invest. Like, I won't use particular countries, but we know a lot of that comes from China. They're buying up a lot of properties and stuff. But I'm not just going to target particular countries or anyone. But I will say there are benefits that are continually headed towards one portion of the population, and it's causing so much disparity. When people see, no one really wants to talk about the uncomfortable class. Everyone likes to say the 1% or the 99%. They like to show this divide, but the divide, it's along intergenerational lines, a lot of it. So it's like, it's an uncomfortable thing because nobody wants to say anything bad about their mom or their dad or their grandpa or their grandpa. But a lot of your grandparents or grandmothers or whoever, or depending on how old you are, your mother or your father, are benefit, and they're the silent majority. Are like, I'm still benefiting from this, so I'm just kind of going to sit here and keep my mouth shut. When in reality, they should be doing the right thing, and not just constantly clamoring to make dividends or constant gain dividends from this Ponzi system that constantly is economically enslaving the generations alive today. And like I say, because the debts are so high and the deficits are so high themselves, that at some point in time, that debt's going to be offloaded onto what? I mean, and we don't know when the economies might crash. I mean, to place the younger people in such a precarious position, and with student debt, that's another thing. Student debt, you younger folks, most of the people, even in my age demographic in Gen X, a lot of people, other than in like the big professional fields like lawyer, doctor, and all that stuff, a lot of people, you got trained on the job. You didn't have to go to school to get educated. If you wanted to go be an accountant or you got hired at an accounting firm, and maybe sorry, go ahead.
A bachelor's degree used to be worth something. You could you could get a job right out with a bachelor's. Now it's like, well, everyone has a bachelor's degree, so you've devalued the bachelor's degree. Now you got to go get a master's degree or a PhD or a specialist degree. And I mean, there's more competition for these positions as employers are less likely to spend the resources training people, and they want people with 2 years experience, 10 years experience, 5 years. Like, they want you already to know everything and then come to them. But it's like, how do you get that knowledge without actually doing the job? You can get education at this school, but if you're not going to hire people that have like just a degree and no actual, like, where am I going to get the experience of working in an office if you don't let me work in the office? I mean, I'm smart enough. I got a bachelor's degree in political science. I got a good grades there. I can work in office. I'm in, like, I could just show me like just train me a little bit, and you'll have somebody that can work hard. Like, I want to work, so.
Well, it's the exact same kind of inflation, except in human beings, and those diplomas, it's the exact same thing. So they were in demand, and they had value when only a limited number of people that were actually competent, maybe had to do a couple part-time jobs or something, but they really worked hard. So you had the right kind of incentive structure. You had the right kind of people that were ambitious and competent enough to achieve those levels of success in their education. And then the employer recognized automatically, that's the person I want. Because there's so many things that message, that signal sends to the employer. But now, because government's basically said, we'll give a loan to anybody. You got a pulse? Here you go. We'll give you a loan. You go do whatever. Like the bars has been lowered so much at this point that, now you have a tremendous amount of people that are coming in with these degrees, like you say, but are they as valuable? No, because obviously not. It's not like more and more of the people in society became, that much more competent, that much wiser. No, it's just like I say, they lowered the bar, and you see that happening in many different areas of not just the economy, but in their social world as well. And that's the problem. It's like I want to raise and elevate people. I don't want to get us to this point where we're all down, raised to this lowest common denominator, where it's like, we finally all reached equality. But look where we are. Like, that's not the kind of equality I want, right?
It's like the equality. It's like when you talk about communism, right? You see how there's always people that rise to the top because they're the smarter ones, and then they take the power. And so you see like that whole system in play. And it's like, well, everyone's equal, but some people are more equal. The pigs are smarter, so the pigs will rule, and so we get the best stuff, and we will rewrite the history for you because we know best. So you follow our lead, and you can be a sheep and a goat and a stupid chicken or duck or whatever you are, and you can just we'll direct you to do, because we're looking out for your best interests. That other person, we got rid of him because he was bad and he beat us and he made us work for him, but now we work for ourselves, but we're better off now.
I'm just going to share that
now.
Yeah, I'm just going to share that tweet, like I say, because I forgot to do that. I was mentioned earlier that I was going to do that, so let's make sure it's on screen here. Yeah, so for folks that didn't see it, so this was what I had posted on Twitter yesterday, was the fact that CERB is trending in Canada reveals just how dependent many Canadians have become on government and forced income redistribution. Socialism sucks. Now, obviously, like I say, that was put out there to get people engaged in this discussion, because to me that is the thing. Like it was 8.2, then it was revised up to, it was practically close to 9 million Canadians that actually chose to take CERB. And like if there was a small segment of society that took it, you'd realize, okay, that's pretty profound. But, and I get that government put a lot of people out of work, but
EI was there anyway. They could have just processed people on EI.
Right. There was lots of ways. Or like I say, the other thing is, it definitely shows that there's a tremendous breakdown in people's ability to want to take care of each other. The family value, the community cohesion is because, hard times hit.
Government will take,
Yeah. Well, historically, you would rely on, like, I know for myself, if my son loses his job and it's a consequence of outside of his control, not because of anything that he did wrong. Now, as a father, now I'm not going to not going to keep him out, but if it's a circumstance where he might need a little helping hand in the interim while he's trying to figure things out, it's usually, like I say, family members, community members, charity, or other people, church groups, all kinds of people that can step up and help people that are in need. Mm-hmm. But once again, nobody wants to be personally responsible. And actually, the kind of personal relationship you have, or the kind of help that comes from someone that knows you, well, you get a much better targeting of the kind of help, and it's probably going to be more beneficial for you in the long term. Whereas if you just can rely on someone just throwing you a check once in a while, right? It's like, but is it actually teaching you anything for the future? Are you gaining anything in terms of your economic prudence? So maybe at some point in time, you're like, okay, I'm not going to place myself in this position again. I don't want to rely on government largesse, because I realize that's a detriment to some people in the future who's going to have to help pay this off, or even myself tomorrow or next week, next month, next year, when the prices of everything start to increase, because there was all this money being spent in the economy, but not based on actual productive wealth that was created, but just based on the government that just said, here, spend this money in the economy. That's the thing with that kind of arbitrary inflation, is it's really detrimental to those people that are supposedly the ones that we're trying to help the most. And like I say, for people like yourself, I feel terrible for it, which is why I don't mean to, like I say, when I use these things, it's to get people to engage in conversation, because I didn't say it in a way like, oh, you're just a bunch of lazy.
You're elite. You didn't say you're.
I was just pointing out a reality that it looks like a lot of people have become dependent on government. That was just pointing out a reality, right?
And another problem with this whole CERB is, like, if you made 5,000, what they did was they made the requirement so ridiculous, because if I was like a high school student and I made like 6,000-7,000 last year during the summer working hard, I qualify for CERB this year doing nothing.
Right.
Like you qualify for CERB if you made over 5,000, and you declared that in your taxes for 2019. So anybody who made over 5,000 in 2019 who's not working because of like, you can say, like, oh, I couldn't find a job because of the pandemic. Well, now I'm on CERB.
Yeah.
I'm getting 2,000. I'm getting 24. I'm getting 12,000, 14,000, whatever the max you can get is for half a year. I'm getting CERB. So I've heard of high school students getting CERB and using. So apparently there's a trend on TikTok where people are going spending their, like, showing what they're spending with their CERB money and thanking Daddy Trudeau. High school students on TikTok, because they could get the money. Yeah, it's wild, because the program, it's government. Is there no one in these people's
lives? It's like that. What I hear, is there nobody in these people's lives that are saying, like, you're setting yourself up for a big, like, a parent, an uncle, aunt.
Yeah,
like, there should be somebody in their life to tell them, yeah, you enjoy it now, but the pain's going to come way later. Because, like I say, government's not doing this for your benefit, and for you to believe that, wow, like come on, that's the thing that, like I say, when people say I'm a heartless parent, I care about the young people because I have 2 sons myself. I care tremendously. I don't want them to go through this kind of economic hell, because there is going to be a day of reckoning. It's got to happen. And I want to give them the best chance at life. I want them to be more resilient, more self-sufficient, more, personally accountable and personally responsible, so they can say, government, you take your shit and shove it up your ass. I'll take care of myself and my own, and I'll be good to go. Like that. That's what I want to see. A population like that. But
then we need to get a government that will actually reduce the size of government and get rid of a lot of the red tape for employers and for businesses, for starting a business. It's so hard to start a business, operate a business, because there's so many hoops you have to jump through. There's so much costs to start up a business or to run a business because of all the red tape and regulations. And you've got to, like, why do, like, if I want to work and somebody wants to hire me and pay me whatever, why can't I do that?
Yeah.
Like, if I want to go and dig a ditch somewhere because somebody needs help with manual labor digging a ditch for that, no, they've got monopolies on everything. So you can't do that unless you have a license and the company's registered with the government so they can tax you and everything. And so I mean, unless you completely, like, no political party in Canada, except maybe the PPC or the Libertarian Party, which are both smaller parties, are talking about really doing anything to reduce the size of government. Everything is, what can we do to make government bigger? Like, what can we, because the government will help you in this and that, and what can we do? What can government do for you? It's like,
and that's
not
actually,
what can you do for your
that's another thing. Like I say, 100 years ago, and it was coined. I forget who exactly said that phrase back in the day. It was an American, I think one of the founding fathers or something. But it's like, or someone that said, it was actually Thomas Paine that said something basically. I forget. Anyways, basically, someone said that, the government says that I'm from the government, or someone says I'm from the government, I'm here to help. Yeah, that's, you better run the other way as fast as you can, right? Because and people understood that. People understood it. There was even the old pretense of the snake oil salesman. People had a healthy dose and skepticism towards government because people understood what governments were capable of, especially, like you say, not just during the Great Depression, but World War I, World War II. People historically, but that's the thing, we've got 2 or 3 generations of people, like boomers, myself, Gen Xers, and millennials. Now, actually, 4 generations, Gen Zers are all coming up, and none of us, not one generation, has really had to go through any genuine, protracted, like, difficult times, because government has constantly been bailing out and propping everyone up rather than learn to deal with hard times and to, like I say, get the incentive structure back to perceiving things. Even the media. I mean, the media is literally, their sole job is not to entertain us. Their sole job is to hold government to account and push back. But what they do, they just basically parrot and insult. They insult Canadians. They spend more time coming up with articles, dividing Canadians along sex lines or racial lines, or finding all kinds of other means of that identity politics divide us, rather than informing them that, government, that's the thing. The only guy that, CBC, a perfect example, the guy that is their go-to source for the business section is Don Pittis. The guy's a Keynesian on steroids. He's a promoter. He was a guy that, he was on a CBC article this week to come out touting modern monetary theory, which is Keynesianism. But see, that's the thing. Even John Maynard Keynes himself. Are you familiar with who John Maynard Keynes is?
Yes.
Okay. So for the people that don't, he was an economist, and was historically would have been considered a classical economist, but he kind of tweaked his whole thing and kind of went to more of the central planning and the monetarist type thing, where he used the central bank to prop up and stimulate the economy. And then, but the whole thing, if you actually paid attention to what John Maynard Keynes said himself, was that is only as a stopgap measure. Now, I'm still against that, right? But even if you use the pretense and why it was sold to the public and people accepted it then, because Keynes said it's for a short time as a stopgap measure under particular circumstances. And that time was like after the world wars, and Europe was devastated and there was very few places. So there was some underlying reason that gave people the pretense. But now it's got to the point where there's no such such pretense that you even back off and try to save for a rainy day. Now these MMT proponents are taking Keynesianism, saying, no, you can just keep doing that forever. You never have to save. You never have to be like worry about wealth being generated through actual economic, productivity stuff. No, we can just basically use, fiat currencies, and the fact that they're severed from any tangible commodity that would prevent them from being manipulated. Now we can just use that forever and eternity. And like I keep asking, I'd love to bring. I was hoping one would come on today because I'd use that same question. Well, then why stop at $2,000 a month? If we could just put money, why not just give every Canadian $1 million? Because man, think of how much money. You want to know how fast the GDP would grow in Canada if you gave everyone $1 million? But see, that's the thing. I think even they understand.
Yeah,
and why we want to have the conversation. I think they realize that I can poke holes through their narrative so quickly, and they won't have anything to answer to it, which is why they don't want to have a conversation.
I mean, exactly. They know that is So I think what the biggest thing is, like, the problem with the way the government works is it's just there's so much inefficiency and there's so much just waste that, like, a good intentioned program to help people has actually gone so far that it's actually, there's people benefiting that don't need the program. There's people that would, like, the program was just rushed out, the CERB, that they could just get it out there to the people right away instead of thinking about the consequences, right? People not going the long term, like, how are people going to go back to work if there's no incentive to go back to work? Like, what's for myself, right? So my employer laid me off, and with the intention of recalling me. Now, if the business doesn't pick up there, they recalled what staff they needed, and I'm low on the seniority poll, and they've actually had to cut their own staff's hours just to keep, like, because it's just been how slow the pub and the terminals, the club, the private members business club has been. There, you can't have functions. We can't have weddings, banquets, all this stuff. So that all you can do is like small functions in their restaurant. They can't use their banquet facilities. So you could better space in those facilities if you had, because we're technically allowed groups of up to 50 in BC. As long as they're socially distanced. So you're technically allowed 6 at a table at like a restaurant. So why can't you have like a function of 50 people indoors in the banquet hall if you got tables distance? Well, ask our fearless leaders, our health professionals. I mean, it's like, if the masks work, then why are we distancing? If distancing works, then why are we wearing masks? Well, they can't explain, like, don't wear a mask, wear a mask. The masks don't work because people know how to wear them properly, and they're not meant to like actually protect you. They're protecting others. Yeah, they're not. The mask won't protect me if somebody. But like, if I, let's say, did have the coronavirus, if I was sick and I was wearing a mask and I sneezed or coughed, most of the particles would be caught in my mask, but it wouldn't prevent. Those masks aren't meant to prevent particles from coming in. I can still breathe in, like.
Oh no, you can make a really good argument just based on the points that you brought up alone, and I've done that myself in past streams. But I'll even go beyond that to this point, because like I say, now that enough time has passed and enough information is finally starting to trickle in, and plus, people that are paying up and studying, some of the effects of the Spanish flu or any of these other past, H1N1, SARS, MERS. What it is there's never been a vaccine that prevents any of these things from happening. What it is just human beings, and that's the thing, human beings, to think that the human biology, like millions of years of evolution, to think that somehow we're all just going to die. I mean, the proof is in the pudding that it's people that mostly have comorbidities, very susceptible and vulnerable to conditions like the aged and elderly, but they're susceptible to even just the regular flu or pneumonia or a cold. So of course those people are going to be vulnerable. But what we're seeing is most people who have contacted it, they get over it fairly quick and they're back on their feet fairly shortly. And now they've built up some residual, at least some point at some bit of it. And then of course I've heard of people that might even get reinfected. But if you don't build up any antibodies, then that's a protection for the second one, which will be much lighter. So just like I mentioned, if you've never had a cold in your life, the first cold is probably really, really hard on you. But after you've had a few colds, it's like, some of them can be worse, some of them can be better. But once again, just natural biology and your immune system works beautifully for this stuff. And like I say, how can the people that are putting forth the narratives that we need masks or social distancing, like I say that it should be just a blanket statement to use it as a one size fits all. Like I say, trust and rely on most Canadians to try to do the right thing. Give them some good guidance. Like I say, if I was in a senior's home, I'm going to make sure I'm being really proactive and protecting anyone that's susceptible. But once again, for the rest of society, for the rest of us, that are going to be able to contact this and move on and go forward with barely a whimper, let's get this shit. Let's rip the fucking Band-Aid off. Don't be so fooled now. Or actually, now that at least we see that the hospitals aren't going to be overwhelmed, because I can actually even see when they made the argument earlier on. We got to at least make sure, because that was one of the few things where it's like, I'm not for government mandates or lockdown, but I understood the reasoning behind it, because we definitely don't want to overwhelm. But we see that that's nowhere near the case. So can we at least try?
Exactly. And what they did was they looked at places like Italy and Spain, which have high elderly populations. They saw, and they got into those populations because they weren't doing the measure, and they didn't really know it's a new thing. And so like China was giving false information, so we didn't really know what was happening in China. So places like Italy, Iran also has the elderly population. Spain, but then their hospitals started getting overrun and people are dying. But again, mostly it was people that were 70, 80, 90 plus. And you look at the care homes, it was a disaster in the care homes in Italy and Spain. And even here, that's where 85% of the people have died is in the care homes. And one of the challenges in our care home system is that workers were traveling between different care homes and spreading it, because they had, I worked at this care home a couple days a week, and I worked at this home a couple days a week, and I get my hours that way because I wasn't getting enough hours at one care home.
I won't say any names.
Some of them were private.
Yeah, I won't say any names, but I actually know of people personally that work in those fields, and yes, they were sent to multiple different facilities. And like you say, that is a way that you're obviously going to be spreading. So like I say, this pretense of placing your faith or trust in governments and as if all their mandates are going to prevent bad things from happening, it hasn't worked so far. Like I say, I think given good guidance, telling people to have the proper PPE when they're in the medical field or dealing with people who are vulnerable, I totally get that, and I think we should do it. But now that we've seen that literally most of the people that have contacted it, or the potential of people that will contact it in the future, most of us are going to make it just fine. So like I say, at least start opening up, allow people some economic activity so that they can take care of themselves, because that's it's the unspoken or the unseen negative consequences of mental health, stress. If you're, like I say, if you're the provider of your family and you've lost your job, like I say, your kids, your wife, you're going through hell at this point in time, right? So that we got to take all these other considerations into account and stop just functioning or worrying about this one size fits all approach. That's the beauty about giving humans their freedom, right? It gives people, I know what's better for me and my family than some guy sitting on the hill in Ottawa. Trust me, and I have more of an incentive to want to protect my grandmother than someone else. So, and on the East Coast is another perfect example where actually it kind of drives me nuts that you got provinces like Nova Scotia went into the full-on mandate mask. Meanwhile, on the Atlantic provinces here, we got cases in like the single digits. Right?
Literally, I think there's only six active cases in Nova Scotia right now.
So think about it. That goes to show you, because I've lived in Halifax and Dartmouth, right across the river there, and they're densely populated. So still high population, high density areas, but most people are shown to be personally responsible and trying to do the right thing. So rather than punish them or penalize them, I think you should be rewarding people for doing the right thing, because that incentivizes them to want to do the right thing going forward. But this one size fits all, it's snaring and catching a whole lot of people up in, and they're getting like $800 some fine. Although I think that has started to reduce. Either that, the media is just not reporting on as much. I mean, you had examples of people where these enforcement officers or bylaw enforcement officers were giving people fines for walking their dog by themselves. So you're like I say, you're causing a lot of harm to a lot of people in society needlessly. by using a blanket approach when, like I say, allow people to have personal responsibility. Now, when somebody does something wrong, sure, once somebody does something wrong, let's hold them to account. But this whole pretense that you're just going to be able to protect society from anything bad ever happening, well, I mean, the only way that'll ever get the point is where we're all locked up in our own little cages. And I suppose you could say, yay, we've achieved success, but we're also all locked up in cages. So I'll err on the side of freedom. Thank you.
Yeah,
but
no, I think like one of the big things is you're talking about just the unintended consequences. Well, BC had the highest months of overdoses in our province's history in May, June, July. We're probably going to get the numbers for August being over. Like we had 170 people die of overdoses from like hard drugs, fentanyl, the opioid crisis in the last couple months, which we've had only like maybe a dozen people die of coronavirus.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. It is, and there's, like I say, there's just, that's the problem with the way the media's handle it, and they're trying to pair not just one size fits all, but a targeted narrative towards, you know, holding people to this ridiculous standard that if you, like when I hear people say, oh, if you're not wearing a mask, oh, well, you want to kill grandma. I mean, when you get to the point where you're actually, you know, accusing people of that, I think that's not just detrimental to the people that you're accusing, but it's the same idea, even if you think about it, with the whole like Hillary Clinton and calling, you know, half the supporters of Trump as deplorables. Once you start stereotyping or painting an entire portion of your population as evil, immoral people for just doing things that they, in their mind, they know themselves. No idiot politician or no media hack knows what's going on in that person's mind. But once you've told that person that they're a bad person and they know themselves, wait a minute, I've never put anyone in any harm's way or danger. I'm a really good person. Now you've turned that person into, well, basically that's where the next libertarian is going to come from, I would imagine, because now they're going to really, or at least they're going to start thinking more critically. And actually, I think the media is doing more. I've said this before. As much as I talk about libertarianism and the beauty of the fundamental principles espoused of self-ownership and the property rights and non-aggression principle, I think the left is doing a much better job of turning more and more Canadians into libertarians these days, because they realize that the government is definitely a detriment to your not just economic but social bottom line, and not just your economic prosperity, but your health and your happiness. Because that's the other thing. People look at how many Canadians today, not just because COVID, because before COVID even come to exist, Canadians are massively indebted. They're over medicating, not just on prescription drugs, but like you say, illicit drugs. Alcohol is probably one of the biggest sellers out there. That's what they didn't cut down alcohol, right? Like you can still get your beer. Like that was actually essential, right? So, but that's what it is people constantly are using something to distract them or dull their senses so they don't have to deal with the real world that's around them. And I get it. I've done that. I've partaken. I've tried to like put myself in the mindset where, let's just forget about the real world. But you know what? God damn it, every time I sober up, that real world's right there waiting for me every goddamn time. And not only have I distracted myself from that real world while I was off, in my, blissful ignorance or my heightened state of intoxication. Well, not only was a detriment to me because I was pivoting away and not paying attention, but I see it now. Now it's encroaching and causing harm to my kids. And you know what? When they have their kids, it's going to. So to me, it's like, I get it, folks. I get it. I totally understand. I understand you, why you would have to take the CERB to help yourself. I totally get it. But let's at least start having these kinds of conversations like me and you are having, so that we can realize that, I'm not hating on you. Like I said, the fact that you came on the show, I had no negative or ill feelings towards you. I totally understand the position, and I'm not even saying that you made the wrong decision. I'm just saying I think the best thing that we can do going forward is help getting people in a position where they don't have to rely on government, because I think it's not just good for their own personal self-esteem and self-confidence, but it's going to be much better in terms of holding each other to account and where we'll perceive each other as fellow citizens. Because that's the other thing. Everyone kind of don't trust each other anymore, right? Because everyone's like, oh, you're game don't want to steal my tax money, right? So
everyone just talks past each other instead of talking, like actually having honest discussions with each other and really trying to see where people are coming from. Because like whether it's the Black Lives Matter stuff, whether it's whether it's Trump, whether it's this, that, the other thing, you can't have an actual discussion because people will just get so emotional and they let emotions rule instead of trying to actually allow for civil discussion, discourse in our society. So, I appreciate the fact that you've had me on your show and on your podcast, and we can just talk. And look, I don't when I saw your tweet, I just said I want to explain why I'm on CERB. I'm not saying I'm 100% supportive of CERB. I'm just saying this is the reality a lot of Canadians are in, and I saw the tweet. It's yeah, socialism does suck. You see what it's done to countries that have experienced socialism, North Korea, Venezuela. We can list them all. It doesn't matter, but we know that that's not the solution. What we do need, I feel like so many people are so far gone. It's just they expect government to take care of them from cradle to grave, and we trying to move that window, trying to move it back and say look, we survived without all these programs before in society. I think we need to go back and maybe try to at least reduce the size of government to a more and start getting rid of a lot of the crony capital, a lot of just the waste, the wealth, the stuff that really hinders a society from reaching its full potential that Canada could with all the resources we have and all the potential we have. But I think, we've had a good discussion now for a while. We probably should wrap up, I guess.
But. Yeah, sure. I just wanted to say one more thing. And and like I said, I really enjoyed this conversation. And thank you once again for coming on. But the only thing I would just add to that and why I added the hashtag socialism suck, because like I say, I've watched the constant rise, just like with the inflation and the devaluation of the currency. I've seen the constant rise of these social programs to the point where I do see this, and the UBI has been something the proponents of it, and the MMT, the modern monetary theorists, they've been behind the scenes, been really, really trying to get some political party in a position of authority to try to bring this and do this kind of experiment in Canada. Because, like I say, they all think they've got it figured out now because of algorithms and computers being able. They think they've solved the value, because that was the big thing with most Marxist crap in the past, why they always failed in every endeavor, is because Austrian economists or even classical economists always explained that there's no way you can have any price discovery under socialism. But now they think they'll be able to use computers or supercomputers to figure all this stuff out. But my concern, like I say, is seeing how many times the media, because I've been paying astute attention for many years now, 10 straight, 100% paying attention, basically almost anything. Yeah, I surprised myself how much information I digested over the last 10 years. But I see this gradual creep, and it seems like maybe Canada might be trying to, like I say, it almost seems like this CERB was a little test to introduce UBI. And Trudeau, the media is even already putting a little cover out there right now. And there's a couple articles I was reading earlier today where they're basically saying this thing that the Liberal government's supposed to be introducing when they get back in Parliament. One of their main things is how they're going to restructure the entire economy. And when you hear stuff like that, because we all function under, it's a mixed system right now. It's capitalism underneath, because that's what provides most of the wealth or all of the wealth. And then the mixed economy is the socialists get to skim off the top and distribute it. And the capitalists, as long as you keep them somewhat happy, they don't complain too much, because there's other places that will steal even more from them. So I get how the mixed system kind of works. But like I say, if you get to the point where you implement it, where it's not just a temporary stopgap measure, where you do introduce an UBI, then it's you can set your stopwatch. The countdown is on to the breakdown of the economic cohesion or even economic prosperity of most people, to the point where that divide between the 0.001% and the 99, you'll see that even right now it's grown massively. And the growth, if you watch how that growth, how that trajectory changed, that the curve got so steep, it was after the financial crisis of 2008. Because once again, when the central banks propped up all the bad actors in the economy, they just kept it was just like keeping right along, right? So the rich, just all the ones that gamed and rigged the system, They didn't have to suffer any of the losses, and they actually gained more gains. Whereas the people that don't get access to central planning money until it's way devalued, way after the fact, we're the ones that, like I say, you're going to see that disparage, that divide grow even more. And the crazy part is the hacks in the media or these politicians, they know that. And the more this divide continues, they realize it's actually incentivizing the people at the bottom, the ignorant ones, the ones that aren't being properly educated. When they see that growing divide, it's so much easier to create the narrative of, oh, it's just them evil capitalists. It's just evil capitalists. But like you were even saying earlier, that's not capitalism. What we're living under now is not. This is, like I say, this is so much of a central planned economy. There's very few segments or sectors in the economy that isn't completely regulated, controlled, and dictated by government mandates. So I'm worried that, especially for the young people today that are coming out of these institutions, not being properly educated in terms of economics and some of those fundamentals of how you save for a rainy day. I worry that they'll be willing to accept it because they're starving. Like, keep the people starving just long enough, keep them down under the foot just long enough, and then they'll basically clamor for anything. You can imagine that scenario with anyone. If you were starving to death, even if the thief that maybe killed your dad, someone that you hate, you vehemently loathe, but he comes along and offers you a pork chop, well, you'll probably take the pork chop because it's in your own best interest because self-preservation kicks in. And that's what's going to happen. What I worry about the young people is a lot of them might recognize internally there's going to be some inner monologue that's saying, this ain't right. Yeah. But may be willing to yield the principles because, that's the only game in town. If the only thing I got to feed me, right, or to sustain myself is this.
Of course. And
yeah.
People are definitely doing that. Like, I know people say, well, if it's available, I'm going to take it, even though I'm going to take it because I can get it. Yeah. I'm going to take what I can get. Exactly. And I'm going to look after myself now and not care about what's going to happen in the future, because the future, I need the money now. I need to pay my rent. I need to pay my food. I need to live now. So the future be damned, long-term consequences be damned, and we'll see what happens. But I just don't know where this is going, because they're talking about years now. I mean, some of these health people are talking about maybe it won't be over for another year or two. I mean, can they actually get a vaccine that will actually be effective and work? Probably not. Maybe they get some, like the flu vaccine, they just don't know, because they think they put whatever strains they think will be prevalent, but different strains come. And so, how effective is the flu vaccine? I just don't know. I think we need to, I think Sweden will be proved right.
Yeah, that's the thing though with the media and the way that they're playing politics with it now, because you can use that tunnel vision and focus in on the fact that Sweden did have a higher death rate there for a while because, like I say, once we've given enough time, and that's the thing.
Over time,
time marches on, we'll be able to step back and look at the macro picture.
We just delayed it here in certain places by these lockdown measures, because as soon as you release the law, all of a sudden it's a virus. It's gonna, and especially a virus that has a up to 14-day incubation period. That's actually very mild. So a lot of people don't even feel symptoms, and they're asymptomatic, but they're going around, and maybe they breathe on you or spit and they're spreading it, and then it eventually gets to vulnerable people or elderly, and people start getting hospitalized again, and in BC, we almost had it down. One day there was only 2 new confirmed cases.
Wow.
We had one day, we had a week where every day was under 10 confirmed cases. We went to phase 3. We went to phase 3. We're back up to about 60 to 100 new cases a day. Yeah,
that's like you say. Yes, if you lock everyone down and away, yes, you'll be able to flatten the curves.
Now they're worried about
Well, I mean, that's the thing. You can't keep everyone locked up indefinitely. So at some point in time, and relying on this pretense of a vaccine, we've seen there's no history. There's no history to show that even if they do come up with a vaccine, that it's actually going to be even remotely as beneficial as they suggest. So relying on something that, like I say, there's no history, there's no evidence to suggest that this is going to work. Relying on that and keeping millions and millions of people out of work, destroying incentives for our younger people and teaching them like from very early ages. Now, that's another thing I see with these young kids going to school today.
Yeah.
Well, I can't imagine what it's like. I'm very glad that both of my sons are old enough and they're not in school, because I can't imagine what kind of situation. I probably have to homeschool, because I wouldn't want to put my kids in that situation where they feel like that even when they're that young, that life is already such a, I mean, life can be overwhelming for children as it is, but to be placed with this kind of constant fear mongering and putting them to mask up the psychological effects that's going to have on kids. I don't know. I feel bad for a lot of parents out there today that are going through the hell. It's got to be rough for them, because they're trying to do the right thing.
It definitely is, because like the back to school plans just seem like a mess. I mean, it just doesn't seem workable. And people are concerned, but the government's has put all this fear into people about this virus. Before, it was about climate change. We're all going to die in 10 years because of climate change.
Notice
now
how
we're all going to die because of a virus. Now we're going to die because of a virus. Trump's going to start World War, like before Trump was going to start World War III when he got elected. Well, that didn't happen. So I mean, it's just one thing after another. They're trying to. Oh, the terrorists are going to destroy.
It's fear porn.
Terrorism. That was what George Bush used.
Seriously.
We had to. You have to have something to control the population and to take away our freedoms, like the NSA.
Oh, there's always got to be an external boogeyman. That's the thing about the people. The Canadians should understand, the people that are always warning you about the external threat. You might want to pay attention to them, because they're probably a bigger threat than the external threat. And the reason why they're pointing the direction at someone else is because they don't want you to realize that they're a bigger threat. That's the part, like, to me, and like I say, even the founding fathers of the U.S. understood instinctively, and that was so part and parcel of the culture. Now, you see, even that's going by the wayside these days, because people aren't adhering to some of those fundamental principles that the founding fathers espoused in terms of keeping government at bay and all the ways that the people hold government at bay. Because if you rely on government to keep itself at bay, that's never going to happen, because it's always going to be captured. Politicians are going to go into these positions because they have the ability to use government to benefit them or someone else.
Yeah.
The whole point was the people have to be wise enough, you have to be educated, you have to be informed enough, and you have to be willing and bold enough to stand up in defense of your rights and liberties, even when it's difficult, or even when it's uncomfortable, or even if your neighbor don't like you for doing it. That's the thing. But very few people are willing to do that these days. They just put their head down. They kind of pretend that everything's fine. But once again, we're all functioning in a construct, in some kind of weird dystopian mess where nobody's actually being honest and forthright with each other. A lot of people are going home miserable as hell, like I say, drinking themselves out of the table or popping pills, and it's like,
using whatever.
That's the case, right?
That will give them a short-term stimulus. That feels good for now, because they want to repress any sort of how they're feeling, and how because
security is very important. But I always err on the humans to flourish, just like I would say, not just humans, but even animals in nature. Freedom is of paramount importance, right? I get it. I get for people that are proponents of safety and security, and especially people on the right side. I'm all for some of the being proactive and being prudent in terms of that stuff. But once again, when you measure it, when you balance it, and that's another thing the founding fathers of the U.S. were very important piece of information that they relayed was, yes, we get the safety, we get the security, but at the end of the day, if you're going to balance things out, always err on the side of liberty. Not entirely to the point you don't want to break down structures entirely. Just like me as a libertarian, I would actually say, if you extrapolate the principles of self-ownership and property rights, actually, I would have to say I don't even believe there's such thing as legitimate government. But most people believe in government, because that's what we've been taught is our new way in how we have social cohesion or have law and order in society. But until the rest of my Canadian peers catch up and realize that, no, there's all kinds of other ways we can hold each other to account without having a giant monolith of government, or like in the past when they used to have monarchs or dictators or pharaohs. We will get to that point. We will eventually intellectually develop to that point. But in the meantime, I don't want to tear down the current structures. What I want to do are what people like Elon Musk and other innovators are doing, or even some of these social media platforms that we do. I will say I'll complain about some of the things they've done, but you and I wouldn't be able to do what we're doing today if there wasn't such thing as YouTube, Facebook. So we can be the new. we can get our information out to, or Twitter. Yeah, exactly. So as much as they come, just like a roadway, it can be used for, or a gun, you can use it for good things, you can use it for bad. But what we can do, and like I say, what the young people, the innovators, the great minds that'll be coming to exist over the next couple generations, use that. Don't worry about tearing things down. Build something, alongside or all of your own, so that you're offering, because that's the beauty of competition. That's the beauty of the market. If you offer something, like if you can offer healthcare and make sure Canadians have healthcare, because that's an important thing for Canadians, where they don't have to send their money off to this entity that we don't know where the hell the money goes or hold anyone to account. If you can offer a model where you can offer that kind of healthcare and safety net for people who are vulnerable or poor, who can't afford it, and make that so it's more a voluntary interaction, contributions. You offer a better business model, people will automatically gravitate to it. No need to tear down the old. It'll just become abandoned by sheer fact that no one will ever want to use it anymore. So that's the thing, and that's why I want to talk to some of these left people. Stop trying to, throw out the baby with the bathwater. Yes, the West, have done some things wrong. There's been politicians who have done some things. There's been legislation that's been introduced that's been detrimental to a lot of people. But once again, you don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, just like a lot of the religious fundamentalists in the past. You don't want to get rid of Christianity until you've figured out a way to offer up some moral or ethical underpinnings for your society to. That's because that's the other thing. We have to function under something in terms of universality when you're talking about morals or ethics. If we all get to just make up morals and ethics, whatever we want it to be, well, some guy might say, like, and you're seeing some of them today, is like, well, pedophilia, that could be another one of these sexual disorder things. It's like, no, actually, you're talking about someone that's vulnerable and it's in a position that can't have informed consent. No, that's, you're taking advantage. That actually is an immoral act, no matter how you try to make that. But that's the thing. People think that you can just make morality subjective, and that's another.
Yeah, that's another topic.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I want you to get into that. But listen, like I say, I'll let you go there, Nate. And like I say, really, really do appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Bennett.
Hopefully, I will get one of these lefties or somebody at least.
Well, at least you can have a. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Hopefully, you can get somebody who might be more opposite, like taking a more contrarian position, or that. I mean, you should try to get one of the people that posted. See if they're like, oh, I don't want to debate you because you're just whatever, or you're just
they try. That's the other thing. I had a couple of them say, because my channel is monetized, although even this stream I haven't monetized. What it is a lot of the videos, I haven't uploaded videos for a while. I used to do regular videos and I do streams. I always monetize the videos. They're like 5-10 minutes long. But if people realize, based on my few, like even when I used to get like a few thousand views per video, you might get $2. Like I don't know what these people think. Like, I'm just making it rich. So actually, and especially when we're talking about COVID, if you have a YouTube channel, and anyone that has one, for me to monetize it, to turn monetization years now, are you discussing COVID? Is there swearing? And chances are there's always something that I'm going to be able to check off on that list that's going to prevent me from monetizing anyway. So most of my stream now, I don't even bother, because YouTube will automatically demonetize it because I'll talk about some controversial topic or subject. So no, I'm not doing this to earn money, and I'm not even doing it to garner attention. It's just, I recognize, and I've said this to people in the past, I look out there in the landscape, there are very few people that are willing to talk about these things like I do, or in a position where I can do it. And I'm fortunate enough that I'm competent enough to be able to, speak my mind freely and fluidly. I think I do a decent job of articulating my thoughts, right, and my principles. So it's like, why wouldn't I? I feel like there's a gap, there's a void out there. So I feel I'm going to try to fill it. And like I say, selfishly, I want to do it selfishly. Why? Because I want to live in a more freer society. I really value my liberties. And I have 2 sons. That's another thing. Big incentive if you have children. I hear a lot of people all the time, when you have children, it's like, shit, I really care about the future. Because that's the thing. Now it's not just me. How society unfolds now, it just doesn't affect me. Now it affects my kids. And like I said, as a father, I want to have grandkids, right? So now it's like, oh, shoot. It gives you more of a long-term prospect and long-term thinking when you have not just personal skin in the game, but like I say, have family members that are going to have to. So like I say, and people on the left and the right, we've all got skin in the game. If you have family, if you have kids, so let's talk about this stuff. Because like I say, I am not one of those people. I'm not one of those cold-hearted libertarians. I care about people's freedoms and liberties as much as anyone else. I always say that's the beautiful thing about libertarian. We don't have to agree with each other. I don't even have to agree with Nate. You do you, and I'll do me. The only thing that we have to agree with, if we're going to engage socially or economically, the only thing we genuinely have to agree with is, don't use force, theft, or violence on me, and I'll do the same. Can we do that? Right? That should be pretty minimal. If we can agree those terms, the sky's the limit.
And the other thing that we have to agree on is that we allow people to live their.
Yes, exactly. 100%. Oh, I lost sound there, Nate. Sound. There you came back a little bit there. Hello?
Sorry, earbuds are. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, right on.
Yeah, my earbuds are a bit messed up.
Oh, okay, right on. Well, anyways, if you want to is there anything that you want me to add into the stream when I tied up? Like, do you have a website or any social media pages or anything you want me to share in the description of the stream?
I do have a YouTube channel called Nate's Hot Takes.
Oh yeah, I like that's your username there on Twitter too. That's a pretty cool name.
Yeah, Nate's Hot Takes. So I have a YouTube. I haven't really been posting that much. I posted a couple things earlier in the walk, and then I stopped making I should get back to making a few videos on different things. There's a lot of things I'd like to talk about, but I have also Nate Hot Takes page on Facebook. But I don't really post that much there either because I just post everything on my personal profile on my Facebook. So.
Well, like I say, I'll leave it up to you. But if you do want me to share any of those links in the description, just in a Twitter reply where we were messaged back and forth, just send me those 2 links or whatever. Or if you don't even care to put them, but if you do, just put them in the description, and I'll copy and paste them right into the stream.
Okay, sounds good.
Right on. All right, and like I say, thank you very much for having this conversation. And if you're out there, whether you're on the Twitterverse, in that dumpster fire they call Twitter, or anywhere else, like I say, if you do get a chance and you're talking to people and they have these kind of fundamental disagreements, if you want to even send them my way, like I say, I'm more than willing to talk to anybody. As long as, like I say, as long as they want to come to the conversation and not just play this bullshit where we just insult each other. If they're genuinely curious or inquisitive and actually want to talk about these things, I'm more than willing to listen to anybody's opinions, perspective. And if I obviously disagree with it, I'll make that known. But once again, we're just talking at the end of the day. So that's all I'm really looking for. So if there's something else, like I say, that's curious, inquisitive, and wants to understand kind of my position and why I take the stance on certain things I do, and ask them or mention them to reach out to me. And like I say, I'll have a conversation with them as well. And for you, if there's anything that comes up in the future that you'd like to talk with me with, well, we've been in contact now on Twitter. Just reach out to me and we'll have another conversation.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Matt.
Not a problem, man. You just have a great day, okay?
You too. Bye.
Take it easy. Okay. All right, that was great, folks. So yeah, like I say, I was really hoping that I could have got someone that was a little bit more adversarial, because out of all the comments, SERFdom, yeah. Here, let me show you here. It's basically under the feudalism where you had to work for your lords on their land, basically indentured servitude. Yeah, actually, you could have just typed it into kind of what I did there, but yeah, I'll bring it up for you anyways. What the heck? Who is that? Ryan Thomas. Okay, so let me just share the screen. But yeah, thanks for all you folks that showed up for this. Well, it wasn't really a debate. Like I say, it's strange. Think about it though. Another example where the only one that was willing to come on and engage in a conversation with me was someone that actually is more aligned with libertarian conservatism, and obviously he's just a gentleman that's obviously concerned about the economy. He's a guy that works in the private sector. Seems like a real nice guy. So I understand why he's taking the CERB. And like I say, I don't feel any animosity towards people like that. But yeah, it speaks volumes that the people that were insulting and deriding me in such a profuse manner, not one of them took up my invitation to come on the stream. But anyways, yeah, let me show the SERFdom here. StreamYards, bring that up. So yeah, here's the description for SERFdom there. Serfdom was the status of many peasants under feudalism, specifically related to manorialism and similar systems. It was a condition of debt bondage and indentured servitude, which developed during the late antiquity and early Middle Ages in Europe and lasted in some countries until the mid-19th century. So basically indentured servitude, right? So you got to work for the owners to pay off. So that's the CERB, right? They'll give it to you now. Oh, you're going to work to pay it off later. And that's, you're going to, trust me, a lot of the Canadians that are benefiting from this government largesse or wealth and income redistribution, like I say, it comes with a whole lot of strings attached. And like I say, you're not going to like how it's going to play out in the future. You get the feel good moment now, right? Put the drug in. Oh yeah, but it's the coming down. It's that sobering up. It's going to suck because you can't live with that needle in your arm forever. Otherwise, that leads to another detrimental outcome, right? Anyways, let me get back into it. Now, one person that I actually did, let me see if I can bring that up, that did have a disagreement with me. And I was really hoping that I could entice him to, here, let me bring this up actually, that I can entice him to come have a debate with me. Because at the very least, it would have been very entertaining. Don't know how informative. It probably would have been quite a little match, right? But like I say, it definitely would have been entertaining. Informative, yeah, probably somewhat, but definitely entertaining is none other than, here, let's see if we got this. I think it was actually the first reply to my tweet there. The fact that CERB is trending Canada reveals just how dependent many Canadians have become on government enforced income redistribution. Yeah, Ed the Sock. Ed the Sock. And I was like talking away. Like, could you imagine? I was like, you don't even have to use the real guy. Just put just use the Sock. I'll talk to Ed the Sock. I can say the entertainment value alone would have been worth the watch as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, Ed the Sock there. And then, like I say, what was the response of Ed the Sock? Shut up. Park your ideology. CERB saved lives and livelihoods in our economy. The economy is bouncing back fast because of the government's actions. You'd rather people lost the roof over their heads and starve. That's fucked up. Ideologues suck. like that's quite the straw man. You got to admit though, like, damn, is that what you do in your pastime, Ed? You just build straw men? Like, farmers, hey, if you got to get those scarecrows out of your yards, out of your fields, call up Ed, because man, he seems to be a professional straw man builder. Because look at that. He built one up, and of course he doesn't want to talk to me. Of course he doesn't want to talk to me, because then he wouldn't be able to use the straw man. He'd actually have to talk to the real man. Right? There's a straw man. Look, as you can see, look, the straw man arguing over there. Look, nobody's arguing back because the straw man don't talk. But I do, and I push back. Anyways, surely you're up to the task of having your premises challenged. I will host a live stream discussion to allow you the opportunity to try and make your case while being morally consistent. I'd love to see you try. At the very least, it would be entertaining. I do see one more reply from Ed, and this looks like it may come from today. Old tactic, lure me with 53 plus followers to amplify your account with one. This is the person. This is hilarious. Oh, I won't do it because you might, what? Are you scared? Like, Ed's literally admitting that if he apparently, right, has a conversation with me, apparently he's worried that the people that follow him will follow me. What? Why would that be the case, Ed? I'm an ideologue, evil libertarian. All your loyal followers, surely none of them would like me. They would all retain and maintain their loyalty to you. They wouldn't come to this big, bad, old evil libertarian. They just want to see, who is it? Oh, people starving. Like I say, Ed wouldn't be able to play this kind of straw man bullshit with me actually on the other side of the camera. So I understand, Ed. I understand, which is why, yes, stick to the comedic routines, stick to playing with your little sock puppet there, right? Maybe that's a thing. Trudeau, Ed, both have this fascination with socks. I get it. Is it a fetish? Right? I don't know. Like I say, inquiring minds may want to know. Not necessarily me. That's actually a little bit creepy, to be honest with you. But I mean, come on, Ed. Like, as if not. Trust me. Not looking to gain your followers. Like, there's so many things. If I wanted to gain someone's followers, there's lots of things you can do to that. the reason why I don't just, whore myself out for followers is because I don't want a bunch of idiots. I want people, if my channel grows gradually and slowly, okay, but at least it's the right kind of people, right? So just like in my house, or if I have a party, I don't say, hey, everyone, yeah, come on, anybody, come on in. No, I like to be a little bit more selective, and not just the people I associate or align myself with, but even people that are followers, right? Although I'm not really looking much for followers more than I like to think of people as fellow travelers, right? But anyways, it's funny how, like I say, that Ed's trying to act like, oh, what's this? Canada's economy bounced back and is at 85% previous level. That's like the thief. It's like, damn, I spent all my paycheck that I got on Friday night. I spent it all at the casino. I was broke, and now I can't pay my rent. Oh, I'm so hard up. I'm so desperate. Oh, but wait. Oh, my neighbor usually leaves their wallet on their kitchen counter, and I've known they've known to leave their front door open from time to time. Perhaps if I go over and steal a portion of that money in my neighbor's wallet, well, look at now, all of a sudden my prosperity is much better now. Look at it. I'm doing great. Look, now I can pay my rent, and look, I even got enough to buy some groceries and even a couple articles of clothing. See how good wealth redistribution works? See how awesome that is? Look at the great success story. Oh, wait a minute. Oh yeah. You got to leave out the fact that you stole from your neighbor, right? Just like Ed here. Oh, you got to leave out the fact that government is stealing from the working poor or the unborn at this point in time, or causing inflation that's actually going to cause more harm to the working poor or those at the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum. Like I said, I didn't think Ed was that successful. Are you that successful that you don't even know how the little people live anymore, Ed? Because I'm not that far removed from it. Actually, I'm right down there with them, so I know what it's like. I got the same. When I look out and observe the economic reality, I'm right there with the rest of the people down there. So I seem like I have a much better outlook and perception and how the people at the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum are going to fare under these big government wealth and income redistribution schemes. But anyways, but yeah, I thought it was kind of funny. Wait, now there's another reply. Let's see what other reply we got here. Well, debate them then. If you're so sure of your facts, you have nothing to worry about. Or is it just about the ratings with you? Huh? Exactly. Exactly. Thank you, Carolyn. I really appreciate that. Oh, yeah. So I didn't notice that one. So, yeah, that was great. Thank you very much, Carolyn. I really appreciate you chiming in there. If you get a chance to watch this video, thank you. Matter of fact, I'll bring you on the channel. I'll bring you on the stream if you want and say what you got to say, what's on your mind. I would love to hear that discussion, but something tells me fraud the sock. Fraud the sock. Won't be up for it. That's a good one. That's a good one. But, yeah, I like that. Well, debate them then. If you're so sure of your facts, you have nothing to worry about. Or is it just about you? Exactly, right? And that's literally, like I say, that's how you know that these people are functioning from a dishonest place. Because if Ed was truly caring and concerned about the poor people in this country, well, then come on, have a conversation with me. I guarantee you find out that I have that same kind of empathy and compassion. The difference is I don't want them to get caught up in this kind of economic enslavement that past generations have had to deal with. I want the younger people to break free from that mold. Right, that enslaves not just their labor and their resources, but their minds as well. So who really cares about the people? Ed, I don't know. Like I say, if you would choose to have a conversation with me, we could hammer out and iron out some of the details and maybe get a little bit more nuance from what perspective each other or what principles each other are basing our decisions or opinions or our preferences on. Because I actually have principles that guide my ethics and morality and how I think. So I can always attribute that to those principles. Can you? Or are you just pulling shit out of the air because it's politically viable or politically correct? I would suggest the latter. The latter, Ed, I would suggest. Anyways, let me pull this off. Put me back on. There we go. That's much better. Anyways, let me get into the stream. I'm going to go by real quick. Zach, no one important. Trudeau is a tool. If the dipshit would open up business, the government wouldn't have to be taken. Exactly. Exactamundo. And thanks for joining the chat there, Zach. And Corey, they shut our business down, didn't qualify for gov crap, and didn't want to. We are burning through everything we've saved just to prep for the coming disaster of the fake kings and queens. Yeah, I feel bad for you, Corey. Like I say, that's make sure, just like with me, I'm making sure that I'm around people that, care about each other and not going to have to look to government, because at some point in time, you're not going to be able to live on government largesse for much longer. Oh yeah. Anyone know what? Yeah. Sorry. I didn't get to that till later there. But like I say, if you're curious on that, just do a Google search or a Bing search because you can usually find that stuff out pretty easy. What's going on? Hey, Libertas or IB Atlas, I should say. The idiots, right, nonsense, have been paid to do nothing. They run a dog and pony laundromat. Okay, let me scroll down here. Let me scroll way down because I'm way, way back. Here, let me take off the banner here, actually. Pull that down. Get way down to the bottom. See what everyone's up to. I see Rick is back in the chat. Nice. All 53. Corey, Denny Ringus. What's Denny saying? Only Trudeau gets kicked out of power, the economy will bounce back. Ed works for CERB. Ed works for CERB. Does he? I don't know. What's going on, Denny Ringas? What's up, man? What's up? Anyways, like I say, it's wild because every time I end up having a conversation, I always end up, as you see, folks, and I know it's kind of probably getting a little bit boring at this time, and I'm sorry about that. I really am. I do hope that I can get some of these people that are proponents of big government and socialism and these income redistribution. I hope I can get some of them on here. Like, dang, it's like trying to pull teeth, I guess, right? It's really, really difficult here. Or actually, I guess if you're a dentist, it's not that difficult to pull teeth. I guess difficult to pull teeth, I don't know, without any instrument, with your fingers. I don't know, whatever. But it's really, really difficult to get these people who are advocates of big government to actually come on and give any semblance of reasoning or logic or, like I say, any principles that back up their claims or their position. So, once again, that shows the power of ideas. It shows the power of promoting liberty. It shows the power of having a genuine and astute understanding of economics, both micro and macro, because that gives you the power to push back against literally hundreds of people. What was it? If I go back to my original tweet, how many people did ultimately chime in? Because there's quite a few. I know that. Oh, I got to go back, I guess here, do I? Where did that go? Where did that go? Where did that go? There we go. Yeah. So, it doesn't say how many different. 49 quote tweets, 76 retweets, 258 likes, but it doesn't say how many people replied. Well, that's a lot. It was a lot. Dang, yeah. Well, we get, I don't know. Like I say, I can't find out. Yeah, but as you can see, or is it still on there? Actually, let me see. No, it's not on there. Anyways, forget that, folks. But yeah, there was a lot of people that commented and replied to me, but like I say, not one of them would agree to have a conversation other than that fine gentleman that I was just talking to earlier, which obviously he took a position that's they plunder my income and I needed the help. So I took it. And like I said, I totally understand that, but this is at least a person that's being honest and forthright with this. This is someone that's willing to engage in dialogue and hopefully get to the point where we can find ways to not have to use government redistribution schemes to make sure we can take care of ourselves in the times of needs or those we care about. Right. And like I say, I was glad to have that conversation. Young people are addicted to MSM. I know that's weird. Well, they shouldn't be. I mean, especially in the age of social media. It's weird. That's another thing. Talking about social media. I had another, not a strike, but on Facebook, on my Next Gen News and Views page, a thing that said fact check by, forget where it was, the place that fact checked it. All it was me sharing that whole thing with the CDC, showing that only 6% of COVID cases, it's been revised. to show that only 6% of the COVID cases in the US, so out of the 186,000, only 6% of them have actually been shown to die from COVID alone with no other contributing factors involved. And all I did was share an article that displayed that, and it actually had the CDC information embedded right within the article and the link to it to click on it. So all Facebook, or who the moderator are in Facebook, all they had to do is look at the actual article itself, realize that they were just referencing and quoting a quote straight from the CDC's own website, and they placed the link that took you directly to that page on CDC's website that showed you where they got that information. So once again, when you have these hacks in the social media, and like I say, it's not Zuckerberg himself. There's a lot of these activists that work for these organizations that are doing terrible things. My son was telling me the other day, actually, that someone else, I don't know if it was a gamer or one of them, that had their channel their video demonetized, and they even appealed it. And then another reviewer said, nope, the original reviewer was right. No money for you. You did something wrong. But this person said, oh, so YouTube's going to die on this hill, even though they know they're wrong. And then apparently someone in YouTube come in and replied and said, no, we're not going to die on this hill. And then they went back and remonetized the video and apologized to the guy for doing what they did. So, if you got a big following, people with millions of subscribers, you can push back against some of this suppression that happens in YouTube. But once again, that YouTube, that suppression, it doesn't mean the entire organization, doesn't mean everybody in YouTube is going to do the exact same thing or suppress your content, or deny you your content, or remove your content. But there are activists in these businesses, in these corporations, that are actively trying to suppress people. So once again, it doesn't mean that everybody in YouTube, doesn't mean everyone on YouTube, doesn't mean that everyone on Facebook or Twitter are actively trying to silence, suppress, or prevent other people from speaking on their platforms. But there are definitely activists within these organizations, and that's the area where the people are in charge. So like Susan Wozniak and YouTube, yes, you need to put the clamp down and either fire or put them in different positions, these people that are playing politics with people's economic bottom line and their ability to generate an income on your platform. So that's a big issue. That's a huge issue. Anyway, smartphone effect, everyone consume and no one produces. Yeah, YouTube promotes MSM heavily. Very, very true. And Steve Passmore, I believe you're the guy that's got the channel The Anarchist. I haven't watched any of your videos in a little while. I'll get back to checking them out. But yeah, check out, I believe that's the same guy. It looks like the same username. Anyway, Steve's got a channel, The Anarchist on YouTube, and he puts up some great content too. So check him out. What do we got here? The UN's live stream. Oh, what was this? The UN's live stream earlier titled Rebirthing the Global Economy to Deliver Sustainable Development. Ooh, that's what this is about. Ooh, that doesn't sound good. That's a lot of words, huh? Ugh. Kind of sends shivers down my spine. Because these people, they love use these words that sound like they're so benevolent and what they're doing is going to be good for you. When at the end of the day, it'll turn out to be the exact opposite. Okay. Yeah. Tam says wear a sex mask and use glory holes. Yeah, that was the other thing that came out on CBC. What was it, yesterday? Yeah, if you're going to have sex with someone, a new partner, put that mask on while you're having sex with you. Fuck. Or I think she said, or better yet, just jack off or grab your little vibrating toy and do that. It's like, so yeah, once again, like telling people like now Teresa Tam's going to give people fucking, what is it? Dr. Ruth or Dr. Teresa Tam? Which one is it? Holy fuck. Are we supposed to take you seriously? Oh, I don't already, but Jesus Christ. The fact that these people think that they have to tell people, like, here's an idea. Stop treating Canadians as a bunch of fucking adolescent children or imbeciles. As much as I recognize some of them are, but definitely not all. Hashtag not all. Come on. Hey, what's going on? Freedom Free for All. Nice to see you in the chat. Stop whining about being a business owner. Just started already. Exactly. Well, that's the thing. That is true, and I definitely agree with you. But even myself, do I want to start? There's all kinds of business ideas. But do I want to function in such a corrupt system right now? Maybe. Maybe not. It depends. I've had to ponder and think about that a lot. Because you have to create a business in this current environment, it's so difficult to function under the current structure. And of course, like I say, you can try function outside of it, but then if you go against the legal system or what these political edicts or mandates entail, well, you see what happens, right? Try to function in the black market, even though it should properly be called the free market, because that's what really the black market is. You don't have any central planners, force, or coercion imposing or mandating how you do your business, right? That's what the free market is, the black market. But what happens to people that try to function in the free market, who aren't beholden or cowtailing to whatever the government tells you how to run your business? If I start a business, I want to run the business how I see fit, right? I don't want to run a business that the government gets to dictate and how I can run the business, and they also get to dictate how much I'm allowed to profit from the business or how much I'm allowed to pay my employees. Now, like I say, as a business owner, I'd like to have that responsibility. I'd like to have that authority myself. I'm not willing to offload or delegate that to some third party that thinks that they can make better, wiser decisions for my business than I do. So that's a detriment. And that's probably why a lot of Canadians who do have that entrepreneurial spirit, people like myself who do have ideas, who are innovative, why we're basically sitting on the sidelines. Because I've got lost offer, but I'm not going to offer it under this current structure. If I get to a point where I can function, right, where there's any semblance of free market fundamentals, I'm always willing to compete in any sport, activity, or economic endeavor if that competition allows me the freedom to compete without my hands and feet tied behind the back. But if I have to walk into any competitive venture with one hand, one foot tied behind my back, right, while the other people have free use and range of all of their faculties and their extremities, then no, I don't want to function in a rigged system. And that's actually one of the main reasons, I would imagine, why a lot of entrepreneurs in Canada just don't bother and instead end up moving to the US and doing it down there, which is, like I say, if I was to start a business, that's probably what I would end up having to do, and find a state that is more respecting of free market fundamentals. So there's that. Anyways, but thanks for joining the chat and the state. Right on. Vacate the state. Hashtag taxation is theft. Oh, I see Gato was in there, but he was on a break. Oh, it's too bad I didn't get to see you, unfortunately, but I'm glad that you did join the stream. Anyways, I'm getting to 2 hours, so I'm going to tie this bad boy up. Like I said, I really enjoyed having that conversation. Let me take this off. With Nate. It was a great chat. And like I say, no hard feelings there, Nate. And I'm sure you feel the same way. And like I say, if you ever want to reach out and have a conversation with me again, I do so. And for anyone else that's in the stream, like I say, I always got you folks in the chat. But if you ever want to reach out and have an actual conversation with me, and I bring you right into the stream, I'd love to do that as well. So maybe the next time I do start a stream, or what do you think, folks? Post in the comment section, if you wouldn't mind, if there are any of you people that would like to be invited onto the YouTube channel, because I've offered that even for the people that were supporting my channel with the channel membership. I've offered to bring them on, but I don't know, nobody seems to want to come on. I don't know if everyone's camera shy or just kind of like to sit and lurk in the back. I totally get it. I understand it. Not everyone wants to put themselves out there publicly, but if there are any of you that do, like I say, just leave a comment or send me a message on any of my social media pages, and I'll definitely give you the opportunity to come on and say whatever's on your mind. Taxation theft, we take it back. What's right there is right on. Stevie, the cost of starting a business continues to rise. Does it ever? Boomers. Okay, boomers. Hashtag not all, though. Hashtag not all. Don't want to piss them all off, but the ones that we're talking about, you know who you are. And like I say, just like I've said so many times before in the past, before I tie up this video, one thing I will say to the boomers who are constantly trying to rig and benefit from this system at the expense of their children, grandchildren, or great-grandchildren is, remember this, folks. We all come into this earth helpless and vulnerable and relying on everyone around us to take care of us in our most vulnerable years when we're just young infants and children. Well, the beautiful thing about the human experience is we go out the exact same way. So you're going to be just as reliant as you were as an infant, as a small child, on the rest of society to take care of them. You're going to be in that same predicament once again towards the latter stage of your life, towards those latter years of your life. So you might want to think about those long-term prospects and stop pissing off or screwing over your successive generations, because you're probably going to need them in your last or final hours of need. Because if you rely on big government to take care of you, well, like I say, those 85% of deaths due to COVID-19 were in government regulated and controlled healthcare facilities or long-term healthcare facilities. So are you really going to place your trust and faith in politicians over your own family members, over your own offspring, over your own children and grandchildren? If you do, I can tell you, it's a long-term strategy that's going to fail miserably for you and everyone else. So like I said, thanks for everyone that joined the stream. Have yourself a great day and have yourself a great weekend when you get to it. And I'll see you in the next one. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.